Hey folks, so this week's case is about Google. Google is interesting in its own right because of its platform business model, which is a business model that we now see some of the largest companies in the US and globally sharing a similar business model. So it's interesting to examine just the business model on its own. But this case also illustrates some points about when should a firm diversify, why should it diversify, what's the justification, and how to organize a firm if it has several distinct business interests under one roof. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's start by talking about the core Google business. So what fuels the Google search business? Why has its incredible performance been so sustainable over time? So the core Google business, and in this I include the search engine, YouTube, and its Android devices, share this platform business model. So instead of acting like a traditional manufacturer where you produce a good and you sell it to consumers and you're generating most of the value, in a platform business model, you're creating the value for both consumers and producers by acting as an intermediary and connecting the two. So, for example, consumers are attracted to Google's search capabilities, and so are advertisers, and Google acts as a platform to bring both together. Or the YouTube business, individuals act as both content producers and content consumers, and they're brought together in this video marketplace that Google hosts on its YouTube platform. And this is attractive because it also creates this feedback loop. The more we use Google's search products or YouTube, the more Google learns about our behavior, and the better information they have to give to advertisers about how to target ads, and they become a more effective platform for ads. There's also this idea of network effects. Google is a valuable place to advertise because it draws so many eyeballs. Other platforms just don't have the same kind of traffic, so the more traffic Google gets, the more attractive it becomes in the eyes of advertisers. So that begs the question, what about these moonshot businesses that are not inside the Google core, that look a little different? This case focuses primarily on Nest, but since then you might have read about Google's participation in autonomous vehicles or some other projects that maybe don't quite fit the core business model. So how does Alphabet justify its investments in these moonshots like Nest? And how does Nest, for example, fit into the Google portfolio? Is there a feedback loop? Are there network effects? I'm going to let you think about that one. Looking at the Cullis and Montgomery reading, what shared resources and capabilities does Nest have with Google's core business that might justify having them all under one roof? How does Nest spark innovation at the broader Google company or Alphabet company? Does it? And I'll ask you, why does Google own Nest? Why don't they invest in Nest, like take a small equity stake, form a JV, a strategic alliance, some sort of licensing agreement? Why is ownership the best format of this relationship? So I'm asking you more questions than I'm really addressing here, but I'd like you to think about those in your response as to how Nest fits into the overall Google portfolio. And then finally, what is the rationale for the decentralized structure chosen by Alphabet? So if you've decided to have these diversified businesses, the Google core and moonshots like Nest all under one roof, how do you organize them? What's kind of the controlling mechanism? So this case details how Google became Alphabet and reorganized, and it was part due to investor pressure. Investors really liked this move by Google. Like, the stock did really well after this was announced. And the idea, in part, is that this parent company acts kind of like the Vermeulen reading talks about as a portfolio manager, a board of directors, and an in-house bank for these moonshots. But again, what shared resources and capabilities do these moonshots have with the core company that makes the parent company the best actor to act like a portfolio manager, board of directors, or in-house bank? So think about that. Investors liked it because it protects the core businesses and enhances transparency in these other businesses. So now investors know more about Nest's specific financials because they're broken out and reported separately. It also makes it nice if Alphabet at one point decides Nest wasn't a good investment. It's easier to get rid of or sell off because there's more transparency. So you can see some of the benefit for the parent company possibly of this decentralized organization. But how does it help the moonshots? What would Collis and Montgomery say? Is this going to help the performance of Nest by having more autonomy at their individual business level? Yes or no? So these are all some questions to consider as you revise your memos and go forward. Okay.